welcome everybody. I guess we'll get started, right? We got 6:35, and then other people will join as we go along. So for those of you that are new, welcome. For those of you that are returning, welcome back. For those of you that are brand new, a little background in terms of who we are, how this started, that kind of thing. So about 25 years ago, my partner, Nicole Amundsen, actually started buying multifamily and did very, very well. And then at some point, she decided that she wanted to give back. So she put together an intensive, very intensive 4-day class. And I took that 6-7 years ago, something like that. And it was just incredible. And then we ended up partnering. We bought a bunch of stuff since then, and it's just been wonderful. What we are doing is we do have the course online. We are doing it actually live for the first time since pre-COVID on March 7, 8, 9, and 10 in Baltimore at the Best Western Conference Center. If you could at all make it, the class is like nothing you will ever have gone to. The amount of information in there is amazing. And with it, you also get the online class, which covers basically everything. So you don't have to worry about taking a bunch of notes and stuff like that. Obviously, take notes and stuff like that. But if you don't, you can always go and watch more in-depth modules online. But if you get a chance to go, I really, really recommend you do. There's a QR code there, or you can just go to passivecashflowforlife.com, and we'll put that in the chat as well. So, all right, Teaching Tuesday kind of started as a give back. Kind of like we did with the meetup, right? With the meetup, we started just like 3 or 4 students at Houlihan's here in Ellicott City, Maryland. And then we went from there, and I think we've got about 2,100, 2,050, something like that, people in the meetup now. So again, just something to kind of give back, and it's kind of exploded. Funny tip, Houlihan's I drove by yesterday, and it's no longer there. But we moved to a bigger facility, so it's not a big deal. So and then Teaching Tuesdays, we started back in January of last year, just kind of with the idea of twofold. One is to teach, right, on a weekly basis, things that we thought were important. Obviously, we can't get into a lot of stuff in 25, 35, 40 minutes of teaching, but we figured that we would try and educate people as best we can. And at the same time, we would give people the opportunity to kind of check it out and see, oh, something, I like multifamily, maybe I will go, take the course or whatever it is. And if it doesn't work out for me, no big deal. There's a guarantee you get your money back or whatever it is. But this is kind of a way to kind of stick your toe in the water. If you're new to multifamily, or if you just want to learn as you go along or whatever it is. We've been doing these every week. They're on our YouTube channel. So I guess there's like 52 or 53 up there now. They get edited probably Thursday of every week following. And then we put them up on YouTube. So, all right. So my name is James Ray. Nicole and I, like I said, have been partners for quite a while now. Overall, several thousand units across the United States, 11 different states. A lot of it in the upper Northwest, some stuff in Nevada, Pittsburgh, Virginia, West Virginia, Georgia, Kentucky, and I know there's 1 or 2 others, like Washington State and stuff like that, but that's kind of the upper Northwest. So anyway, so that's kind of where our experience comes from. And so hopefully you guys find some value in it. So this is, let me do this now. I got like 3 screens going here, so bear with me, guys. Oh, can you guys still see it?
Yep.
There we go. All right. Oh, this is weird. All right, now I'm on 2 screens. Okay. Can you guys see this okay?
Yes.
Yes? All right, thank you. All right, so if you have ever heard Nicole teach, or anyone that is at that level, so we're talking about, people that have done incredibly well, both from a professional perspective, a financial perspective, an impact perspective. And what you will hear a lot of them say, if not all of them, is that 80 to 90% of any success in any business is all in your head, right? Multifamily it's not rocket science. You do have to learn, right? There's some stuff that you absolutely have to learn to be good at this business and grow it profitably and exponentially. But at the end of the day, you can take 1,000 classes, and if you don't have the right mindset, sadly, you're probably not going to get very far. So mindset is the number one thing, whether you're going to do multifamily, whether you're going to do open a corporation selling widgets or whatever it may be, or be an ambassador to whatever it may be. I think the number one thing that you can do is really read and kind of glean wisdom from many years of people's experience, all in one sitting, if you will, or one, however long it takes you to read a book. So we were trying to choose the books that made the most impact. There are other books, all right? But these are the 6 books that really, at least personally, grew my multifamily business exponentially. These had the biggest impact on me. So, all right. So the number one thing, the one thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan is a phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal book. If you have not read it, if you have not read any of these, I'm going to encourage you to read them. If you were going to put them in order, I would say read this one first. The challenge that we have in today's society, obviously, is that we're being pulled in 75 different directions. And I don't know about you, but it used to be, trying to run, I've got 4 businesses basically, and trying to run them all together at the same time. At the end of the day, sometimes you just feel like you've been hit by a 2x4, at least I did, just exhausted, right? And then a week later, you're like, did I hit any of my goals? Or a month later, did I hit any of my goals? So the premise here is to not get rid of everything else, but have one main priority. We talked a little bit about this last time, right? So you have kind of your vision or your mission kind of at the top, right? And then where you want to be a year from now, and then you reverse engineer from there. And whatever that year-end goal is, you can do whatever you want, 5, 3 years, whatever that year-end goal is, what Gary is saying, and Gary is, by the way, owner of Keller Williams, right? He started that whole thing. So that one thing is the one thing that at the end of 12 months, you want to make absolutely sure that you have hit that goal, right? Whatever it may be. And the example or the analogy might be that when you play chess, that the king is your most valuable player on the board, right? So everything else has to yield to the king. So when I look at all of the tasks and responsibilities and strategies that I have, when I plan out my calendar and I've reversed engineered my 1-year goal, my number one thing that I'm going to get done Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday for like a 2-hour block each time, that comes before anything. Phone goes off, no meetings, all that other stuff, and I work on that. I get rid of all my distractions, right? I want to focus on that one thing and kind of get to the next step. And then I've got, the other 6, 7 days or whatever it is to actually do all my other tasks and goals and stuff like that, the stuff that's urgent, but maybe not important. But if you focus on that one thing, the results after a year are mind-boggling. You will be in a place that you wished you were, but actually got to this time. Because, a lot of times you're like working on stuff or whatever it is. It's like, oh, a year, I'll just push it back. A year, I'll push it back, whatever it may be. And you don't get there. This book has had the biggest influence on me. One of the things that it also teaches is what is the one thing that I can do today that will make other actions easier or unnecessary completely, right? So if I step back and I set up an SOP or a standard operating procedure or a system or something like that, let's say for my VA, right, to take care of postings. So I used to do it. My wife used to do it, right? And then it's like, this is just taking way too much time. So we hired a VA. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to get her to do it, but I'm going to sit down for an hour, right? And I'm going to set up a Loom video and a written standard operating procedure saying, look, these are the 17 things I need you to do each week, right? So it took an hour, by the time I looked at it again, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours to do it. But that 3 hour was like a huge domino, and it knocked down like these 17 other tasks that I had, right? So what one thing can you do today, right, or this week that will make other things either much easier or completely unnecessary. And it does not have to be a VA. I didn't have a VA for a long time. If you can afford it, they're relatively inexpensive, and you can hire them 5 hours, 10 hours, 40 hours, whatever it is. The Philippines is really, really good because the English language is spoken very well there. They're very highly educated, and they charge anywhere from $5 to $10 an hour. So it's an amazing, amazing deal. But if you can't get that, whatever it is that you can think of that say, you know something, if I did this one thing, then I wouldn't have to keep doing this over and over and over and over again, right? An incredibly simple thing is, put your electric bill on auto pay, right? Instead of sitting down for 10 minutes once a month or whatever it is, having to write the check, whatever it is. I don't even know if anybody uses checks anymore, but if you do that, put it on auto pay and get it out of the way. This more than anything, I can't, between this and the multifamily course, I don't think I recommend anything more to people besides these two things. All right, so the next one is Mindset by Carol Dweck. So I guess I should back up for a second. This is one of two books that I recommend to everybody. And this really is about business, but it's not really about business. I recommend this to basically everybody, right? Whether you're a manager, whether you're an employee, whether you run your own business, whether you're a parent, whether you're a coach, whether you're a teacher, whatever it may be, this book has an amazing, amazing impact. And the premise behind it is that as people grow up, they have one of two mindsets, right? And as you read this book, I encourage you, one, to read it, and two, as you read it, to think about people that you know and identify which mindset they have. It'll be crystal clear. It won't be like, I kind of think so. It's like, no, this is what they have, or this is what they have, right? So the standard mindset basically says that, okay, you know something? My parents told me I was really smart the whole time or whatever it is. So I'm really smart. So everything should come easy to me. And oh, wait, that one's really hard. Therefore, I'm not even going to do it. I'm going to walk away, right? Or I'm not going to try because it's going to affect my mindset that I am really smart. Or if I do this, I'm going to fail and it's going to affect my self-esteem or whatever it is, right? That's one mindset that I would think a lot of people that I know, not their fault, right? But they have that mindset. The other mindset, which is what I believe will give you the most success in every aspect of your life, is called the growth mindset. So the growth mindset basically says, all right, I'm not good at this yet, right? So one of the guys I watch on YouTube talks about, something, when you start something, you're just going to suck. That's just the way it is. You're going to be really, really bad at it. Just, embrace the suck and move on. So the idea is that, let's say you're looking for investors, right? So you kind of put your plan together, what you're going to say, whatever it is, and you go and you talk to an investor, and it's like, bam, no, I'm not interested, right? The people with a non-growth mindset may say, wow, something, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm just not even good at this. Maybe I'll try one or two more people or something like that. And the person with a growth mindset is, awesome. All right, so what can I learn from this? This is a learning experience for me. What can I learn from this? Okay, some people are just not interested. That's fine. Let me go on to the next person, right? Or what can I do to tweak this presentation to make it more about I'm offering them something versus trying to sell them something? At the end of the day, every failure should be looked at with a growth mindset as an experience to learn and grow. And the faster you fail, the more you will grow. If people, right, so this is like a really crazy statement, right? But I truly believe in all my heart that if we could catch kids between the ages of like 12 and 17 or 18 and teach them this mindset, it would literally change the world in which we live in. It's that important. So a lot of you guys are like, yeah, whatever, just a book, don't care, whatever. That's totally fine. I am telling you, this is an amazing, amazing book. If you are a parent, every person that I meet that's a parent, Freddie, I'm talking to you. I recommend that you guys read it. It's just phenomenal, just incredible book. It's written by Carol Dweck, that is a PhD teacher, I think in Indiana. Did somebody say something? Okay.
No, but I was gonna say Mel's like I think halfway done with it already. She when you told her she got it the next day.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, don't you have to read it too. You can't just let her.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, yeah, I will.
All right. So this is
Just a
another
fast
amazing one.
reader. I'm not.
You can get it on just Audible or something like that too,
What I like to do is once she's done with it, she'll give it to me, and I'll get both, and it's just easier for me. Then I can just I do both, and it's I like it that way. But it's
Yeah,
I know.
no, absolutely. That's a great idea. All right, so four disciplines of execution. Um, this is written by this gentleman, Chris Sean. Sean Covey, if you don't know, is Stephen Covey's son that I used to know. Phenomenal guy. Sean is a replication of Stephen, just a phenomenal person. And what they basically did, and Jim Hulling, I don't know Jim, I don't know Chris, and I know well, obviously Stephen's passed away now, but anyway, so the idea was they looked at all these corporations and businesses across the world, right? And what they figured out was that those businesses that focused on one or two goals for whatever it was, a quarter, 6 months, a year, whatever it may be, were the ones that made it, right? The ones that actually had impact, the one that grew their revenue, the one that grew their profit margin, the one that grew their, if they had lots of facilities or whatever it is, or they're a franchise, whatever it is, those that grew the most picked one or two and executed on that. I don't know, everyone works for different companies, works for yourself or whatever it is. And one of the things that we do when we take over a property is we will focus on one or two things to start. There's other stuff you have to do, right? To keep the trains running, if you will, and all that other stuff or whatever. But there's one or two things we will look at and go, okay, for the next 6 months, this is one goal that we're going to attack, or at the most, two goals. Once you get to three, you're done. It doesn't work, right? One or two goals, and they call them WIGs, wildly important goals, right? And then what you do, and you hear a lot of goal setters talk about this, is that you can have a lagging indicator, which is, okay, occupancy is at 97%, right? So that's a lagging indicator. A leading indicator is what have you done to get to 97% and make sure you execute on those leading indicators. And what are those leading indicators? Okay, every day we're going to refresh our website and update all of the openings that we have. Every day we're going to go through everyone that called us to look at a property or whatever it is and follow up with them. Every 3 days we're going to do X. Every 4 days we're going to make sure the porter covers the entire property to make sure it looks good when people show up, whatever it is. So if you do those 3, 4, 5, 6 things, right, those leading indicators, and commit to those, then your lagging indicator, right, which is your goal, you will actually hit. So phenomenal book, really well done, really well written. Like it a lot. I actually referred this to Nicole, and now she refers it to everybody else. Hey, Ernie. All right, Atomic Habits. A lot of you may have heard about this guy or maybe not. But his premise is that if you can turn something into a habit, so there's no more willpower, if you will. If if one of you guys can mute out, please, that'd be great. There's a little bit of feedback coming in. So he talks about this, and the way that the premise basically is that number one, make your environment as conducive to whatever habit you're trying to create, right? So for example, right, I've got a pretty enormous desk and I try and keep it as clean as I can, but there are times when it just gets like covered, right? So what I try and do is my habit, right, has been to at the end of every day, right? I put everything away. I want a completely clean, absolute desk, so when I show up the next day, my mind is clear and I can work on my first goal, right? And that basically means designing my environment, right, to be able to get my work done versus coming down and seeing like 75 different things on my desk. Now, granted, I'm not always perfect, right? I miss just like everybody else does. But when I do that, the majority of the time, I get a ton more work done. Another environment might be like I wanted to start running, right? And so I read a bunch of books on it. What's the right pulse rate you want to be at? How far do you want to go? How long do you want it to last? And all this other stuff. And James Clear, premise was, if you want to start running, set up your environment for that. Put your running shoes by the bed. Put your workout stuff, on the end of the bed or close by or whatever it is, right? And I did that. I just put my running shoes over at the end of the bed, and I put my, my shorts and the t-shirt, and now it's cold and stuff like that, sweatshirts and stuff like that, all where it's easy to do. I get up, I grab it, I get out the door, okay? So you have to design your environment so it's easy, right? And then you have to focus on small improvements. So what he basically says is, something, when you get up in the morning, just put on your shoes and your shorts and t-shirt and go downstairs. And you're done. That's all you did. You didn't go running. You didn't go running for a mile. You didn't run for anything, right? You just do that. And you do that for a week till you get used to that. And then you go, okay, now I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to open the door and go outside and walk up to the end of the cul-de-sac or something like that and walk back, right? I know it sounds ridiculous. It'd be like, dude, man, I could be running like 5 miles a day in the next 6 months if I start today. When you look at the studies, most people that do that don't make it, right? If you look at all the studies for people that join the gym, it's something outrageous. Like 80% stop going after week 3 because they're like, all right, day 1, I'm going to go into the gym for an hour and I'm going to work out. And they do that for a little bit and they're like, oh my God, I don't want to do this anymore. It sucks, right? So you have to get it to be a habit. So that's what he's saying. Focus on small increments. And then you can also habit stack. So for that may be something like, okay, something, I like to have a cup of coffee every morning, right? So when I have my cup of coffee out of habit, I'm going to automatically do this other thing, whatever it is, right? So then, every time you do that habit, you're automatically going to do that one, you stack it on top, right? If you will. And you have to read the book to get a little bit more detail on it. It actually does work. But I think the main premise here is that you start really, really small and you do it. And except for when I've been sick the last couple of weeks, I run 2.5 to 3 miles every single day. And I've been doing that for 6 months, rain, snow, hot, cold, whatever it may be, because now it's a habit, right? I don't feel right if I don't go out and run, right? Kind of thing. So awesome book. E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. This has been a classic for a little while. The premise here is, and Ernie, you can probably speak to this really, really well because I know you've really built your business great, and Jane and Sharon, you guys as well. So, all right, so ages ago, long time ago, right, I used to own a restaurant, right? I attended a bar for a long time, worked in restaurants, and then a friend of mine came to me and said, hey, my buddy from college opened up a pizza place. You want to open one? I'm like, yeah, all right. I'm just working in the bar. So, why not? I can't do this all my life kind of thing, right? So we opened a restaurant and we had it for 6 years and then we sold it to someone and actually did pretty well, right? My friend that opened it and we modeled ours on his, by the time we sold, I think had 7 stores, right? We had 1. The main difference that he did was we were working in the business, right? We're in there. It was a pizza delivery place like a Domino's, right? So we're in there taking orders, right? We're making the pies. We're directing the managers. We're setting up the schedule. We're doing the money. We're doing all of the stuff inside the business. But we never said, okay, let's look from the top down and what can we do strategically, right? To actually work on the business. Can we set up systems to do something? Can we train someone to do this? Now that I'm looking out from the top, this is a silly way to create a pizza. We can do it this way, or all these other places are now doing steak subs and all this other stuff. So maybe we should add that to our menu, whatever it is. So it's basically getting out of your own way and looking at the business as a whole. And it's a really easy read. And he's even got one in there. I think there's like the E-Myth for I think there's one for real estate investors, or maybe it's real estate agents. I can't remember. But he's got one for, if you're an attorney, if you're a doctor, whatever it is. But this is the one, E-Myth is the one that started it. E-Myth Revisited is the updated one, and it's just a phenomenal, phenomenal book, right? So if you get a chance to do that, I would highly encourage you. And then we're down to the last one here. We actually went pretty fast, so that's good. Work the System by Sam Carpenter. I can't remember who gave this to me. But kind of the same thing in terms of systems, right? You kind of see a theme going through here. So in terms of systems, right? Sam Carpenter is a gentleman out in Oregon that had a answering service company, right? There are still, believe it or not, answering service companies where someone wants an actual live person to pick up the phone. So what they'll do is they'll go out and get 100 clients, and then a certain phone rings, and they pick up the phone and they go, "Hey, Joe's consulting company," and then a different phone rings and they pick up and they go, "Hey, Mary's flower shop," or whatever it is, right? They're all feeding into one place. And he was working 100, 110 hours a week. And most of you that have your own businesses been there, done that, you know? And it's exhausting, right, to do that. So the idea here was to really set up a system and work the system. So kind of like we talked about before, that you kind of see kind of a recurrent theme through a lot of these books, right? Was he actually sat down and he basically took a couple of days off every month, I think for like 12, 13, 14 months or something like that, and had somebody cover for him. And obviously, the business slacked a little bit because he wasn't there, but he sat down and he put together operating procedures for everything. He created everything for systems and he had it all written out. And to this day, and I haven't, seen this guy in I don't know, 4 or 5 years or whatever it is, but he got down to about the 4-hour work week. I mean, it really worked. He works, I think it's like 5 or 6 hours a week or something like that. But from 110 hours a week to 5 to 6 hours a week, right? Just by implementing what this gentleman has in his book is unbelievable. One of the things that I really like that he talks about is if you've ever had employees, you try and keep the good ones, the bad ones go away, but sometimes even the good ones move on to something else because somebody sees their value and appreciates them and maybe can be in a position to pay them more, give them something else, right? When that person leaves, if you look at so like one of my clients is a very large Fortune 10 company, right? And they have facilities. And when a manager leaves a facility, you can actually see the trend line, right? For the revenue for that facility start going down, right? And then when you get somebody new in there, it doesn't go straight back up, it grows little by little. So the premise here is that the shorter amount of time you have between when someone leaves and the other person is up and running really benefits your bottom line, how much money you put in your pocket. So what we've been able to do and what he taught us to do basically was that for everything we have, there is a system. So God forbid this VA goes away, but if she does, I'll be sad, right? But it'll be okay because everything that I've taught her is systematized. There's a system. So when the next person comes in, I can say, here's a library of 12 videos you need to watch. Here's exactly what the usernames are. Here's what the passwords are. Watch the videos, execute. Here's your advertising calendar. I expect you to be up and running 100% in a week. Whereas before, it would have taken 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks or something like that by the time somebody got trained. Because, time difference, sometimes language and stuff like that. But another really, really phenomenal book. So those are the 6 books that have really made a tremendous impact on my business, Nicole's business, everyone we refer to in their businesses. It really has an incredible impact. So what do? Right? So you want to implement. So what you want to do is, again, we are all guilty of, okay, I'm going to do that, and I'll do this, and I'll do that, and I'll try and do 5 things at one time. I'll read 10 pages in this book, then 10 pages in this book. I would recommend that you read one book at a time, and as you read it, you execute on it. So it may take you, a month, 2 months, 3 months to get through one book and execute on it, but then you'll actually be implementing the principles in that book and it will actually affect your business as opposed to just reading it, putting it down, and then going on with your life, right? Great knowledge, but if you don't execute on it, it really doesn't make any sense. You're kind of wasting your time. I'm sorry, I know it's a little bit harsh, but it's true. And what I tell people, I've read a lot of leadership books, and there's one leadership book that I really, really recommend to my leaders. And I will tell them, read it, right? And in 6 months, I want you to come back and read it again after you implement. And I guarantee, without a doubt, you will read stuff in that book that you say was never in there the first time because they're at a different level, right? And the same thing happens to this. You don't need 100 books, right? Maybe we just need 6, 10, 12 books that we read all the time and go back and learn from. So that's to create the action plan, execute on it. And then obviously, if you're here for multifamily, I guess this is your goal. But the goal is passive cash flow for life, right? So you get up here, you implement, you come back down here, read another one, create an action plan, execute, get up here, and then this continues to go up and up and up and up from there. So, and then what are the last things here? A couple last things for you. Oops. All right. So, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about, obviously, is about multifamily, right? So, and why now? So TREP, I don't know how many of you guys have heard about it, but you know, it's like CoStar and I'm blanking right now, Yardi and a bunch of other companies. But TREP actually does data analysis, right? It's not just properties, but it's actually analyzing the data and what it means almost from a finance standpoint. So they're number one in their field. And they're saying that in 2023, right, there were, this is $26 billion in multifamily loans that are currently at a 1.0 DSCR or DCR, right? For those of you who don't know, to get a bank loan, right, if you want to get like 75% or 80% LTV, you have to be at a 1.25 DSCR or higher, which means that if after you pay all your expenses, you're making 100, your mortgage is $100, they want you to make 1.25. They want you to make $125. So if something does happen, you've got a little bit of room. If you're at 1, that means that all the money you're bringing in is going out. First, you're not making any cash, you're not making any profit, right? But number one, that's number one. Number two, if you're at 1, that means all your expenses, all you can do after you pay off your expenses is pay your mortgage. If something happens, you're done. And that's why there's so many what they call a capital call going on now, because so many of these people got into trouble here. So what is happening and what these guys talk about, and a lot of the I guess professionals publications are talking about, is that over the next 2024, 2025, there's going to be a lot of what I guess Warren Buffett calls blood in the water, right? A lot of people are going to be in a lot of trouble, and there's going to be an amazing, amazing opportunity. So I don't know how many of you follow, and there's not enough time here to kind of follow the trend lines and stuff like that. But if you go back to 2021, 2022, right? Out of all the properties in the United States, 2021, 18, 2022, I can't remember what the number is, but anywhere between 18% and 25 to 30% of all multifamily properties got sold one way or the other, right? So if there were 10 houses in the entire country, 2 to 3 of those were actually sold and somebody else got a mortgage on them, okay? Of all those properties, right, 68% were purchased with a 3-year bridge debt. For those of you that are familiar with bridge debt, what it means is it's kind of like a construction loan. At the end of 3 years, you have to refinance. They got their bridge debt during those years at 3.25. And what are interest rates now? On a bridge loan, 8.5, 9, 9.5. On a regular loan, 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5, 8, depending on the building, where it is, the market, your credit, the how much you put down, all that other stuff falls into it. But what happens is that when you start looking at a lot of these people that are their bridge debts are coming due, and you look at the higher interest rates and the cap rates, what's going to happen is they're going to go to the bank and go, I want to refi, right? And then you go, well, great. You know, when you bought your property at 3.25, that meant you could afford a $100,000 a month mortgage payment, right? That $100,000 month mortgage payment now at the higher interest rate means that your building is worth 20 to 30% less than what you paid for it. So you have a couple of choices. If you want to refi, you're going to have to bring money to the table. And I don't know how many of you guys are in single family, but when I was doing flips, I had several investors bring money to the table at closing to get out of their loan. I suspect that a lot of these are going to be selling, right, distressed at the amount of the mortgage or close to it. And what you'll see here is, what's this one? All right, so this is also from TREP, right? So These are, I didn't get the latest ones. I don't have the last quarter of 2023. And this is average. Okay. So you already see stuff start to happen, right? So multifamily, percentage of properties that were sold at a loss, right? To understand that at a loss, they sold it for less than what they felt the value was of the property. And multifamily in Q2 and Q1, 20, 18%, maybe averages 19%. So of all those properties, they're selling, they're on sale basically. And this is across the country. If you look at some place like Ohio, it's 39%. 39% of all properties in these 2 quarters in 2023 sold under market. Basically, people got a deal. All right, so I've ranted enough, got off my soapbox. If you want to get into multifamily and you have not taken this course, it may be the last time. I'm not just saying that to do a scarcity mentality and all this other garbage, right? It really may be the last time we do one in person. So I guess my recommendation is if you really want to be successful in multifamily and learn from the best, and I'm not counting myself in that, I'm talking about Nicole, because she is really by far the smartest person in multifamily that I've ever met, and I've met a lot of them. If you get a chance to come to this thing, if you're getting married, cancel it. If you're going on vacation, cancel it. It's in Baltimore. If you don't live in Baltimore, fly in. You can stay at the hotel, whatever it is. But I would really, really encourage you guys to do that. That's the QR code, or you just go to passivecashflowforlife.com and sign up. And we can go from there. It includes a bunch of stuff. It's all on that page when you go to passivecashflowforlife.com. So I think that is it.